If COVID-19 wasn't dominating the news right now, what would be some of the biggest stories be right now?
One of the main routes into downtown Seattle, the West Seattle Bridge, was closed yesterday because cracks in support beams made it structurally unsound. It will take several months to fix and will not reopen until it's done. This would normally destroy the entire Seattle commute, but it happened right now, so it's barely even a blip on the local news.
Real talk, this was probably the best possible time for this to happen.
Real talk, they likely knew about this for a long time, and were waiting to find a time to close it.
My new favorite conspiracy theory is that COVID-19 was created by the Municipal Transportation Authority in Seattle.
Don't be ridiculous. The government actually created COVID-19 to keep people inside while they change the batteries on all the birds. Probably the oil price war actually. Saudi Arabia is trying to force the Russians into cutting production since they won't play ball with OPEC+, and as Shell might pay the price as we need high cost for this entire industry to function.
I'd argue right now that if COVID wasn't happening, neither would the oil price war. They can only drop the price of oil super cheap because demand dropped through the floor.
It probably wouldn't have happened, you're right. The additional cuts stemmed from the declining oil demand due to the virus. Had there been no virus, oil demand would most likely have adhered to projections, and cuts would have remained stagnant. Something Russia probably would have agreed to. Edit. In response to the people saying the price war started before COVID-19 really took off, that's technically incorrect. China was already heavily impacted, and the cuts were in response to the reduced demand from that country specifically. Everything that happened afterwards was icing on the cake. For reference to just how much China alone fuels the oil industry, the last major boom was in large part because of China's Industrial Revolution, as depicted on this graph. Lesfm.org//media/publications/regional economist/2016/April/lead_fig2.jpg. La equals n sluiz.org/tilde/media/publications/regional economist/2016/April/lead_fig2.jpg. La equals n. Without China's massive industry bustling per the norm and growing at anticipated rates, things can start to crumble quickly.
The US government trying to pass an anti-child porn law that actually just gives them the ability to search through all of our messages. Edit. If you want to learn more about this act, here's a link: https://act.f.org/action/protect our speech and security online, reject the Graham Blumenthal bill, to an article with some great information.
And also bans end-to-end encryption. If you know anything about internet security, you know that would be devastating to literally everything that's based online in any way whatsoever.
Wait, what? Nobody would be allowed to use end-to-end encryption?
Yep, which means that the government, and anyone who's decent at using computers, could get into any person or corporation's secrets if they are able to intercept a message. Normally it's not a problem because of end-to-end encryption.
And if the government can, anyone can.
We will only let good guys have access. Elderly people who don't understand technology but want access to read all our communication. This is worse than forcing you to hand over a key to your house to the police. But hey, if you aren't breaking any laws.
ISIS bombs Sikh place of worship in Afghanistan. Edit. Thank you for the awards. Edit 2. For everyone mentioning my previous edit, I am Sikh myself, so it touches my heart that so many people care about this. I'm not trying to be insensitive.
Most Sikhs are literally the nicest people. They have been kind built into the religion and have rocking beards and turbans. Edit. Okay, so not all Sikhs are nice. That's a given. Stop being so angry, please.
My old boss was a secret alcoholic, sadly also a Sikh. He used to hide tiny whiskey bottles from his family under his turban. He was a genuinely sound guy, and a good boss too.
So he was a secret alcoholic?
That joke was disturbing.
That Putin changed his country's constitution so he can be president until 2036.
I think we've all known for a while that dude's going to leave power in a casket and not a moment sooner.
I mean, he could go the North Korea route, having him as supreme leader forever and the person running the country just be like the prime minister.
For some reason, Russia likes maintaining the illusion that they're still a democracy. Probably because certain other world leaders still continue to fall for it. The 2020 presidential election.
Never thought I'd be thankful for a pandemic.
This comment's going to age real well. Fine vintage.
The US government wanting to ban end-to-end encryption.
It's fucking stupid. What I've heard is that companies that continue to use end-to-end encryption will be stripped of their Section 230 protections. They will then be responsible for any illegal shit found on their platform, which will really fuck up every social networking platform, because there's gonna be illegal shit on there. Companies that comply and remove their E2E encryption will keep their Section 230 protections but essentially open up their platform to a host of security vulnerabilities. As a cybersecurity enthusiast, I should point out that a ton of its supporters seem very uninformed on the benefits of E2E encryption. It's a stupid idea. Edit. For those wondering why the government is even considering this, it's because the bill supporters claim it will bring child predators to justice. It's a stupid idea that won't work, and I honestly don't see how anyone with the slightest bit of clarity could think otherwise.
They want them open to security vulnerabilities so it's easier for the government to secretly take data from them.
While that is certainly true, even people as dumb as us senators should be able to grasp the idea that if you make a hole in the wall of a bank to let the police in quicker, then bank robbers can also go in through the hole in the wall. It really is that simple.
But you're supposed to put a sign over the hole that says, "Authorized persons only." That way the bad guys can't use it.
You laugh, but that disclaimer is on just about every piece of networking equipment I've ever touched. If you are not authorized for use, you must disconnect immediately. Like, I'm sure the threat actors see that and just immediately close their sessions like, oh shit, I almost broke the rule.
The nearly 2-year-long Ebola outbreak in the DRC has ended. The last patient to be treated has survived.
Wow. I was worried about this a couple of months ago, but then the pandemic that must not be named took over my attention and I forgot about it. Incredibly brave people fighting Ebola. Such a scary disease.
Yeah, the people that get out there to treat patients are some of the world's biggest heroes. I can't imagine how scary it must be to be living in a place with an Ebola outbreak going on. Thank God it's all over now. That was the last bit of positive news I got before all this started happening.
The former king of Spain and his Swiss accounts.
Wow. That is crazy. Seems like it's the perfect time to get away with whatever you want.
A friend of mine works in accounting and he said his company is planning on seeing a massive spike in fraud with all the bankruptcies expected to occur. People trying to sneak under the radar, so to speak.
Not sure it's trying to sneak under the radar versus the jig being up. Like, if I embezzled $1 million and things are going well with the company, I can cover it up. The accounts have $1 million less than what management thinks, but the business keeps operating. Suddenly a crisis hits. The company needs to spend that million, and there's no way I can conceal that it isn't there. Boom, fraud detected.
This is what happened to a previous boss of mine. He wasn't letting us write off uncollectible invoices, usually duplicate invoices, so it looked like a lot of money was owed to us. Then a downturn hit and the board wanted to borrow against the large accounts receivable balance but couldn't because the bank did an audit which showed those invoices are all uncollectible. I had to quit the job because he kept trying to get me, the accountant, to say those invoices were collectible, but I simply wouldn't because I knew they weren't. If I'd have known why he wanted me to lie, I would have gone above him, but I thought he was just an idiot.
I would hope the locusts plaguing East Africa, the Middle East, and the Indian subcontinent. It's describing some swarms as being the size of New York, and they are eating their harvest, threatening widespread famine. I think without coronavirus we would mobilize to try to control this population the way we did for Zika carrying mosquitoes in the Americas. Edit. This NPR article npr.org/2020/02/21/80748327/why are swarms of locusts wreaking havoc in East Africa, describes how in 2018 an unfortunate series of cyclones from the Indian Ocean hit an extremely remote area of the Arabian Peninsula known as the Empty Quarter. This produced extraordinary rain and gave them what they needed to breed. Because a second cyclone hit occurred during their breeding cycle, instead of drying out and having most of their population die out in the desert, the population exploded. In favorable conditions, they can multiply by 400x their population every 6 months. Then they mass migrated. Also, for clarity, a swarm was identified as 3 times the size of NYC.
Plagues, wildfires, locust. I know things like this happen, but definitely getting some apocalypse vibes.
Don't forget the major earthquakes.
They're all in bomb shelters cut off from the world.